Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming today. We're here to announce a major development in a 1988 homicide case. We're pleased to announce that this morning, Santa Barbara County Sheriff's detectives arrested an inmate at the Sarasota County Jail in Florida for the 1988 murder of 46-year-old Vernon Hart Kendrick of Montecito. This was a horrific crime that shocked our community. The arrest followed a cold case investigation that, coupled with DNA evidence, linked 52-year-old Larry Lon Lee to the murder. The case began on July the 1st, 1988, when Vernon Kendrick's employer requested that law enforcement conduct a check the welfare call at Kendrick's studio apartment, where he lived alone, in the 100 block of Olive Mill Road. The employer of the furniture sales company had not heard from Kendrick and said it was uncharacteristic of him not to check in on a daily basis. At approximately 1:45 p.m. that day, a Santa Barbara City police officer who was assisting the sheriff's office responded to the scene and contacted the property owner, who said that she had not seen Kendrick in several days. When the officer entered the apartment, he found a deceased male inside. Sheriff's detectives with the coroner's office and the criminal investigations division responded and discovered that the victim had died from blunt force trauma. The decedent was identified as Vernon Kendrick. Numerous items appeared to have been taken from the residence, indicating that robbery and theft was a possible motive. The sheriff's office launched a homicide investigation, and forensics personnel processed the scene for all evidence related to the case. Through the course of that investigation, sheriff's detectives learned that the last time Kendrick had been seen alive was on the night of June 28, 1988, leaving the Palace Restaurant in downtown Santa Barbara in the company of a male adult who was believed to have had ties to Florida. Sheriff's detectives developed a person of interest, but despite all investigative means, were not able to positively identify that person at that time. As all leads in the case became exhausted, the case became what is commonly known as a cold case, or an open, unsolved homicide. Over the years, time and resources, as they became available, allowed investigators to review the case and the evidence, cold case investigators. The investigators would look at the information in the original case and the evidence not only with a fresh set of eyes, but also with a view of how the advent of new technology could be used to solve this case. In June of 2010, a sheriff's cold case detective submitted critical evidence that had been recovered from the crime scene to the California Department of Justice Crime Lab and asked them to conduct a search for DNA evidence. The lab identified two separate DNA profiles, one of which matched Vernon Kendrick, the victim, and the other DNA profile that belonged to an unknown male subject. That unknown male subject's DNA profile was entered into the Combined DNA Index System, known as CODIS. On August the 18th, 2016, the Department of Justice Crime Lab notified the Sheriff's Office that a potential DNA hit, a match, had occurred with Larry Lon Lee, the suspect who was in custody in Sarasota County on theft-related charges. Sheriff's detectives, with the assistance of the Sheriff's Forensic Bureau, conducted further investigation and found more evidence linking Lee to Kendrick's murder. The Sheriff's Office subsequently requested the Santa Barbara County District Attorney's Office charge Lee with the 1988 murder of Vernon Kendrick. Detectives with the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office traveled to Sarasota County and today served an arrest warrant on Lee for one count of murder, Section 187 of the California Penal Code, for the unlawful killing of Vernon Kendrick. Lee has an extensive criminal history of theft and narcotics-related arrests in several states, including California and Florida. He was most recently arrested in Manatee County on July the 12th on an outstanding warrant, and he was booked at the Manatee County Jail. He was later transferred on July the 18th to the Sarasota County Jail. Once Lee's pending Florida criminal case has been resolved, the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office will seek his extradition back to Santa Barbara County to face the murder charge. We'd just like to add that we would not be here today if it had not been for the professionalism and the fine work that was done by the original sheriff's detectives and crime scene technicians in this case, who meticulously processed the scene, ultimately collecting trace DNA evidence which proved pivotal in solving this case. This was all done at a time when DNA evidence technology was not even a consideration. But thanks to their fine work and their tenacity, we were able to utilize this amazing technology many years later. I also want to commend and recognize the cold case detectives who over the years have worked this case, who refuse to give up on it or other cold cases that they are assigned. This case itself is a great example of how we consider a murder case to never be closed until a suspect is identified and brought to justice. It also shows the importance of dedicating precious resources to cold case investigations. We also want to thank the Department of Justice Crime Lab and their criminalists for their expertise and their training, which continues to help solve cases like this that would otherwise remain unsolved. Thank you as well as in order to the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office for their superb cooperation and assistance with this investigation. And lastly, I want to express my heartfelt sympathies to the family and friends of Vernon Kendrick. All efforts made by members of the Sheriff's Office to contact his family have been unsuccessful. We've lost contact with them over the years. However, we were able to notify a longtime family friend of his about this development, and we will continue to attempt to locate any surviving relatives. I'll now be happy to take a few questions. Please keep in mind that this is an active, open investigation, and I won't be able to comment on specific details regarding the evidence in the case. Any questions?
Has this been actively investigated since '88?
It has been an open investigation, and like all of our cold cases, it periodically is investigated, so we never close a case unless we have the suspect identified and brought to justice. Over the years, the detectives have looked at it. As I said, the DNA technology didn't exist at the time, and it was subsequent to the development of DNA and the widespread use of DNA, the detectives realized that we had evidence that could be tested for DNA evidence, and it was sent to the crime lab. Indeed, it was successful in obtaining that and leading us to this suspect.
Does Larry Lon Lee have any ties to Santa Barbara County that you know of?
I can't go into that at this point in time. The investigation obviously is delving into that, but I can't comment on that right now.
Can you comment on his sentence in Sarasota? Is the time he's doing there? How long he'll be there before he comes here?
I don't know exactly what his charges are. I just know that they're theft related, and I suspect that once they're adjudicated, then we will bring him back here to face trial on the murder charge. All right, again, I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank all the staff, and particularly crime scene technician Ulemeyer, who worked for us and then left and went to the Santa Barbara Police Department, and now has come full circle and come back, and he's here twice involved in the same case. So kudos and congratulations for a job well done. Thank you.